Hello again to this video clip series, My Journey to God in a Very Secularized World. We are going through a meditation that Padre Cortilio Gabrielli gave in 2015 before all the members of the Marian Movement of Priests, the annual spiritual exercises. And the title of this meditation, that you can find also on the internet that I published, The End of the Times - the Great Trial. So he continues here. He says, but before the liberation, we have to know that there is waiting for us the times that Our Lady describes to us. After the message of the 5 signs of the last times, I would like to bring to your attention another message of May 13th, 94, which describes the end times, the final times. And so then he reads this message of Our Lady. He says, Our Lady says, it is within your time that the fulfillment of the message is taking place. The message which I have given you at Fatima, and against which my adversary has thrown himself in fury, but which will now appear in all its extraordinary importance for the Church and for all humanity. It is an apocalyptic message. It has regard to the end of the times. It announces and prepares for the return of my Son Jesus in glory. That was May 13th, 94. And then Padre Cortilio says, here Our Lady tells us that this apocalyptic message concerns the Church and humanity. First of all, Our Lady speaks about humanity. Then he reads another message of Our Lady. Upon this humanity, which has again become pagan, enveloped in the coldness of the denial of God and of rebellion against His law of love, corrupted by sin and evil, and over whom Satan reigns as a sure victor, I am causing the rays of love and of light from my Immaculate Heart to come down. Because only in my Immaculate Heart will you find refuge in the moment of the chastisement, comfort in the hour of suffering, relief in the midst of unspeakable afflictions, light in the days of densest darkness, refreshment amidst the flames of the fire which consumes, confidence and hope in a now general despair. Again, May 13, 94. And then he says, these words concern humanity. Now let's see what she says about the Church. Now pay good attention to what she says about the Church. Now he reads another message of Our Lady. Upon this Church, darkened and wounded, stricken and betrayed, I am causing the rays of love and of light from my Immaculate Heart to come down, when there will have entered into her the man of iniquity, who will bring to fulfillment the abomination of desolation, which will reach its climax in the horrible sacrilege, as the great apostasy will have spread everywhere. Then my Immaculate Heart will gather together the little faithful remnant, which in suffering, in prayer, and in hope will await the return of my Son Jesus in glory. For this reason, I urge you today to look to the great light which has spread out from Fatima over the events of this your century, and which is becoming particularly strong in these last times. Mine is an apocalyptic message, because you are in the heart of that which has been announced to you in the last and so very important book of sacred Scripture. I entrust to the angels of light of my Immaculate Heart the task of bringing you to an understanding of these events, now that I have opened the sealed book for you. That was the message of May 13th, 94. And then he continues, he says, I would like to note the last words that she entrusts to the small, faithful remnant. And then he quotes again from Our Lady. He says, you are in the heart of that which has been announced to you in the last and so very important book of sacred Scripture. And that Our Lady entrusts to the angels of light of my Immaculate Heart the task of bringing you to an understanding of these events. Again, May 13th, 94. And then Padre Cortillo continues, he says, In this regard, I quote the words spoken by Benedict XVI on the Third Secret of Fatima in 2010 during his trip to Fatima. The Pope responded to a reporter who asked if in the visions of Fatima there were included the sufferings of the Church for these times. It was the moment of the scandals of pedophilia. The Pope replied, "The greatest persecution of the Church does not come from outside, from enemies without, but arises from sin within the Church in her internal. There are indicated realities about the future of the Church. We will slowly know as they develop, and they show that there is a vision of the passion of the Church, which, of course, is reflected in the person of the Pope. The terrible crisis of faith, accompanied by a profound moral crisis. The solutions are external, regarding a creative secularism of barriers against the faith, more concerned with publicity and efficiency than with the truth." And that ends the quote of Benedict. And then Cortillo continues, he says, "At this point, there are lots of messages to be analyzed, and it is impossible to see them all. For this reason, I would like to focus mainly on the year 1975, a message of Our Lady with the title of Be Joyous." And so now he quotes Our Lady. "Live each moment in me without thinking of tomorrow, without ever worrying about what you must do. Soon everything will be plunged in darkness. Then I myself will be your light and will guide you. For this, accustom yourself not to look at things but to me alone. Do not consider what many are doing today against my son and against me, and what they are preparing to do against you. The hour of darkness is approaching, the hour when you must drink the chalice which my son has prepared for each one of you. But do not even think of this hour, that you may not be caught up in fear and anxiety. Look only to my Immaculate Heart. Take refuge and warm yourselves here. Strengthen yourselves here. Feel yourselves in safety here." Again, that was a message of March 15, 1975. Then he says, "Here Our Lady warns us. We are called to live these days in serenity, looking only at her, to her mother's heart. But she wants us also aware of the hour of darkness, and that we are called to drink the bitter cup." Then he quotes now another message here. "This is now the time for me to begin disclosing part of my plan. First of all, it is necessary that my enemy have the impression of having conquered everything, of having everything now in his hands. This is why he will be permitted to penetrate even into the interior of my church, and he will succeed in plunging the sanctuary of God into darkness." This is a message of October 18th, 1975. And then he continues with another message of Our Lady. "Satan is maneuvering more and more openly in my church. He has now associated many of my priest sons with himself, deluding them with the false mirage that Marxism proposes to all exclusive interest in the poor, a Christianity engaged solely in the building up of a more equitable human society, a church which would be more evangelical and therefore disengaged from its hierarchical institutions. This real division within my church, this real apostasy on the part of so many of my priest sons, will become accentuated and thus develop into a violent and open rebellion." That was a message of December 31, 75. And here, and another message he offers here is, "My beloved sons, you are the warp and woof of my plan, the loving design of your mother, the gift that I give to the church to comfort her in the passion and apparent death that awaits her before her wondrous renewal through the triumph of my Immaculate Heart in the world." And that was January 31, 1975. And then he kind of underlines it and he says, we are the design of her mother's love. And he says, understood? I knew Padre Cortilli pretty well. He has kind of a rough character, but he says straight out the truth. Oh, and this video clip here, may God bless you and Mary guide you.